right. Hello, everybody. Robert, I'm just going to jump right in. We got a lot to talk about, and I'll start with you. What is the purpose of a record label today?
Wow, you went straight for it.
I went straight for it.
Well, you should ask Grimes maybe. But
I'm interested in both your answers. Sure.
The way I see it is, in the past, it used to be distribution. Getting on airwaves and getting into Walmart shelves, basically. And today, in the world of democratized creation, distribution, it's really breaking through the clutter. Because in the world where everyone can publish, no one can be heard. The noise level is so large. So if you want to do this on a regular basis as a career and succeed on a sustained basis, you need a team, you need a global infrastructure, and that's what we do.
Grimes, do you agree with that?
I actually agree with that quite a bit. I think also, yeah, a bank to some extent.
Yeah, that is true.
Helps.
It helps.
Yeah. Well, the reason I was asking is lately it has felt like a record label is really a house of rights management. And so I was wondering how much time that has occupied for both of you, by the way, Grimes through your work and Robert quite literally through your role.
I go first?
Yeah, I mean, it's taken actually not so much this year, but last year or the year before, quite a bit of my time because I got really into, when the AI voice models came out, we decided to open source my voice and kind of create a little publishing system or house using blockchain where we split 50-50 on the of master royalties with anyone who used my voice. And that was kind of more fun. Like, I don't know if that's a record label per se, but it was, yeah, we were thinking about rights, thinking about copyright a lot. I've been thinking about that a lot because I also think people who let their copyright go free, like Disney, Riot Games, or sorry, not Disney, Riot Games, like Harry Potter, it's such a huge driver in those properties, and I think there's something to that.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit more, and then Robert, I'll come back to you. Grimes, you made a very interesting decision. Has anybody done this before you did?
I don't think so. I did it because everyone was taking their
cloning your voice.
Yeah.
So you had to make a decision as an artist as to what makes you you and what you were willing to kind of let out the gates. How did you think about that when you engaged in that project?
Well, I'm a pretty controversial person, so I just figured like the gates were open and it's fun. It's sort of there's like it's sort of free. Like I felt free. I was like, well, let's lean into this because we're already this deep. Let's see what happens.
All right, fair enough. Robert, how are you thinking about, well, all of that licensing and rights and the stuff that you're not interested in? Sorry, Grimes, you were going to say something?
Oh, I was just going to say also finding talent. And I think as, we were talking about getting through the noise, I think so much power is building in like the top 1% of artists. And then there's like this vast bottom. And I'm really interested in the middle class, like reestablishing the middle class in the art world. And so we were kind of like, well, Grimes is sort of in the middle class. Like I'm not like the biggest artist, not small, but there's all these people who are so talented. And I know so many songwriters and stuff who are always trying to get through, and just doing session. And I'm like, well, if you could go write, make a great song for an artist and put it online, you kind of bypass that system.
Something between, I don't know, Bruno Mars, that's one of yours, right? Yeah, something between Bruno Mars and like a SoundCloud artist, right? That's kind of what your focus is?
More so giving people direct access to like the upper echelons and like also more fair splits because I think we just did 50-50 on master and then we gave them all their publishing because if they wrote the song they deserve the publishing and I think when you're a really small writer and you're working in these big systems bigger artists often feel like, well, I'm giving you this huge leg up so I can give you like 5% or 1% or just a producer fee.
Yeah.
And we kind of just wanted to also establish some cultural norms in that regard.
Robert, I want to ask you a little bit about artists' catalogs and the value of them. We've all probably seen, how many people have seen news stories about, the value of insert artists here catalog? Yeah, Red Hot Chili Peppers, and I'm trying to think of all the ones that have sold in the last couple of years. How are you thinking about that as a head of a record label? Is this something that you want to scoop up for Warner? Is this do you feel the competition? Do you feel that this is just a weird anomaly? Tell us a little bit about that.
It's all of the above. We're a company that owns a lot of catalog.
Yes.
So it's actually, I would call it our real treasure that we have. but at the same time, we're signing new artists and working with new artists as well. The rights management piece that you're describing doesn't apply just to AI. It applies to just rights management in analog, through analog distribution, but also, what is majority of revenue today, which is through streaming. But no matter what, catalog is gaining on relevance because of the unlimited show space of the internet and all the distribution platforms. So today, every single year, catalog has more and more relevance than it has the previous year, which means it's rising in value. So we continue to obviously mine our own catalog, but also acquire more and more. So yes, we continue to want to do that, want to pay the right price. But the thing that's really keeping us busy today is how to further monetize catalog through AI. But it's not just catalog, it's also existing artists through name, image, likeness, and voice, which Grimes just spoke about. And it was so interesting to see. She was kind of running ahead of us, right? Like basically whatever she's doing, we need to figure out how to do that scale for everybody. And but she's so forward-leaning and so much on the cutting edge that it's actually cool, right? Because we learn from artists. If you have somebody like Grimes, you can actually learn from them and then see, okay, which one of those pieces actually can apply and can scale across, we have 75,000 artists represented in our catalog. So it's quite a lot, right? And then obviously we have thousands of artists signed to our company, so we have to tackle it that way. So
how are the ways in which you're applying AI? Because the record label, as you articulated earlier, has a few different things that it does for a given artist. Where's the place that you put AI?
Yeah. So the best way to think about it is that AI gives people the ability to create content, and if the model is licensed, then the artist and us participate. So our goal is to actually increase the value of music by adding additional paid tiers, which enable people to engage with artists' voices and songs and famous songs to create new things, but they pay for that privilege. And because I think artists and songwriters should be remunerated for their craft and for their name, image, likeness, and voice and copyright. So if we do that well, it's actually growing the pie of the music industry. And we have a few examples, our deal with Suno. There are a few other deals, Clay and a few startups basically in the space, but also established digital service providers are getting into the game. So we're really excited about it. We think it's the largest value creation opportunity in music that's in years if we do it right, and we think we're on to something.
Yeah. Grimes, you have a new album. What's it called? Tell the room.
It's called Psy-Opera.
Psy-Opera. Did you use artificial intelligence to create this album?
I did not, besides...
Why?
Why? I like making music. Yeah, I feel like I want to use AI for stuff that I can't do generally. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about, so you talked about it a little earlier with regard to the cloning, voice cloning and all that. We're seeing a flood of AI music, right? Robert's thinking about monetizing it. We're obviously all seeing it. I even read the term boomer AI. Yes, this is maybe we'll explain it in a minute. That involves kind of the remix of AI-driven remix of music. Grimes, you're an artist. You like to create. You chose not to use AI to create your album. What's your take on this flood of AI-generated creativity? And maybe perhaps you disagree with that description entirely.
No, I think it's a flood, and it's slightly concerning. And I think there needs to be some, obviously it's like a huge percentage of what is getting uploaded every week to Spotify now, so we need to protect artists. But we were using the term boomer AI, which is probably rude, to just sort of refer to the like the AI covers and stuff. I feel like actually the more slop there is, the more valuable, more experimental or more unique art is. And I find myself getting really disenfranchised with the system at this point, which is good. I feel like it goes in cycles, and yeah, I think it's good. I think it's going to instigate more, like, I think there's a lot more kind of local acts coming up again and stuff. Like, and yeah, I think the worse we make the corporate music system, the better it is for art.
So when you hear, and as impossible as this for me to imagine when you hear a sort of Grimes knockoff, AI-driven knockoff. Again, I can't even fathom what that would sound like because your work is so unique. But does that make you feel more confident about what you do, or does it depress you?
I mean, I'm trying to be self-replicating.
Yeah, she enables it.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah,
well, that's why I ask.
Yeah.
But it's not very good at it so far, which is good. I think. but also, like another reason I think it's good to actually lean into this is like the more basic you encourage AI models to be, and the more out of distribution humans can thrive, and the more we can kind of like bring the focus back to like great art and art that's pushing boundaries. So yeah, I feel like right before this, we were in a bit of a human slop era where it's so easy to upload to Spotify that there was almost just too much music. I feel like especially 2020 to 2023 or 24, like it was getting really hard for artists.
Yep.
And I don't know, I feel like the AI stuff has been like almost reminding people to actually, I want to care about like artists again.
Now, when I talk to creatives from various different industries, right, many of them think about artificial intelligence and they say, well, I like to use it to kind of map out my ideas, and I'm still the one to create, but it's a very useful kind of sketch pad or drawing board for me. Do you use that? You said you aren't using it for your album, but that doesn't mean you're not using it at other times. Do you use artificial intelligence at all to get to the idea faster?
Maybe. I think the main thing I use it for, kind of vapid, but I just like designing clothes and looks in Midjourney because I've always felt a bit weird about mood board culture anyway. And so, yeah, for me, it's mostly just about going really deep into, figuring out something unique in that regard, because I think there's a lot of issues there with how humans deal with humans in that whole system of, like, if I want to make like a mood board for a music video, I don't want to have other people's work on it.
Right. All right, I want to come to the audience for questions in a minute, but I have to ask you about your little tiff with the Pope.
I don't have a tiff with the Pope. I love the Pope. No, I just disagree on one.
Okay. Why don't you tell everybody who missed it, who's not, incredibly online, what exactly interaction you had with the Pope and what that was about?
Well, he didn't acknowledge me, so.
Yeah.
But the Pope recently released an encyclical, Magnifica Humanitas.
Mm-hmm. Well done.
And basically, I think calling for recentering on humanity, and I don't know. He's obviously positioning himself in the age of AI as, maybe like the second Pope Leo, as the other Pope Leo was right there with a great encyclical at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. So the main thing I disagreed with him on is that I think there is a possibility AI is conscious, or in some strange fragmented way, or some instances of it are at least. But I think it definitely will be, so I think that needs to be part of the calculus. But I do think he's actually right to... I noticed he didn't actually say they will never be. He just sort of said they aren't now, and I do think the morale is so bad, especially with young people. Like, if you're Gen Z right now, it's probably terrifying to just feel like you've worked your whole life and now you're fucked. Excuse my French. And so, I don't know, I think the Pope is great. I mean, we were just saying...
And I agree. It's funny, we had a long discussion on this.
Yeah.
And
well, what's your take, Robert? I mean, that was actually, that document was actually really pointed for business leaders.
So first, I'll preface it by saying I grew up atheist, so actually religion doesn't play a role in my life. It does for my wife and my children, but not for me. And but having said that, I actually do think there's value in a religious leader that can reach so many people around the world to have an opinion on it, and I actually think that they should really have deep technical expertise at the Vatican on AI, and I know that there's a group focusing on it, but I do think that in the world that, the internet world, and therefore AI, is not bound by borders, yet all kinds of regulation happens by borders, so the whole thing is just misaligned. Religion is borderless, so having people express opinions this way, I don't think it's a bad thing, and I'm saying it as an atheist, right? I think it's a good thing. Sometimes they can get it wrong, sometimes they can get it right, but if you keep on trying and you have the right people talking about it and right people on staff over time, it probably leads to the right outcomes for the humanity.
Right on. All right, let's go to audience questions. Questions? Yes, we've got one right here. Just wait for the mic. And then when it comes to you, your name and who you're with. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Yoshi. I'm the co-founder CEO of the company called Alpaca. We do a growth stage fintech startup. My question is that, like, as AI, like, basically, like, expands, like, so much velocity of creating new arts, music. Like, what do you think about that, like, becoming 10 years, 20 years? Because, like, eyeballs, which is, like, demand of the wanting to listen to the music, I guess not eyeballs, ears. It depends on the, like, the population on this planet or, Mars or Moon. But then, like, the generation of, with the AI, like, supply becomes like so much, right? Like, how does the artist actually can figure out, like, what to do with that when this velocity of the, supply can be super, super fast, but demand's growth may not be that fast?
Attention economy.
They need a record label.
What's that?
They need a record label.
They need a record label. Cheers. You played right into his hands.
I think we also just need a return to artist as philosopher, artist as thinker. I miss that we don't have more of a Picasso or something, or a Warhol.
Or poets.
Yeah, or poets. Yeah, I think there's like artists. We've compartmentalized things into like musician and this, but I think the boundaries of art are kind of falling apart. And there's art as a commercial product, and then there's art as something sacred and divine, and how humans learn to communicate with each other. So I think this being such a era of change, like we're lucky to be making art in an era where like there's such extreme change. It's like most artists don't get to be tied to a great historical event that they can interpret. So yeah.
We do have a Grimes. I'll say that. Go ahead.
I would also add to it that, and I'm not saying this as a CEO of a music company, but I think that in a world that's increasingly more digitized, right? You have robots delivering your food, driving your cars, all of that. People will seek out human connection even more than they do today. And arts is the perfect way to deliver it. And I'm not saying just music, right? Music obviously is one great vessel to it, but arts in general, right? As Grimes was just saying. So in an increasingly more digitized world, human connection will be there, which means, when you're talking about boomer AI or slop, actually, the more slop there is, it probably creates a counter reaction over time. I remember, like, we chatted over lunch, and Grimes was saying, maybe the abundance of slop will actually trigger some entrepreneur to create humans-only service, right? Because it will be just, a reaction and counter reaction to that. And so I just think if you believe that arts are a perfect vessel for human connection, I think it will sort itself out over time.
As a liberal arts grad, great, thank you. Okay, another audience question, please. Forgive me. Yes, over here. Just wait for that mic, your name and who you're with.
Hi, I'm Georgie from Flight Story. What advice would you give any young artist, creator, poet today if you're thinking about the future of creation, media, AI, and technology?
Nice one, Georgie.
Both of you.
Can I take it because I have a young daughter
Both of you
who just graduated with her master's degree in screenwriting from Tisch. So she's a young creator starting her career in a very difficult field. And I have no good advice for her. However, there's two things that are true, which is she knows that this is all that she wants to do since she was 15. And she devoted her life ever since to do that, and has written many things already. So I know she's a storyteller. The format may change, but storytelling always plays a role in people's lives. From the caveman, there was storytelling on the walls etched into the caves. So storytelling has always been there. So if you know how to tell stories, it's a skill that will be useful no matter what. How you deliver it, what the format is, what the distribution platform is, all of that may change. But if you know the essence of storytelling, it's good. So I'm actually confident that she'll succeed in some way. It's not because of any specific advice that I have for her. It's just very general advice. But I also don't know how to predict the future. My parents couldn't have prepared me for the future that I live at all. I don't think I can prepare her for that either, other than general advice. But maybe the artist should speak with more specific advice.
No, I actually think, you know, I was really excited when you told me she's a writer because I feel like we've so, like, we've just completely told everyone like reading and writing is not important, the humanities are not important, and I think people have divested from these fields. Like, and you know, I find I only really enjoy AI art when it's like about the AI's experience. Like if it's like an AI discussing what its life is like or something. That's the only time where I feel particularly moved. I feel like investing in being able to speak and write and read really well when we're at kind of record highs of people not being able to do that is just, there's no way you can lose with that, because even just being able to process in your head, you can kind of do anything, not even, or beyond art. But I also, yeah, I feel like people like Lana or like Alice Longau, who like wrote like Gnarly for Cat's Eye and stuff, whenever there's a master of the word, it just moves past anything else. I think it really, like, you start realizing how rare it is for someone to like write something really new, especially in music. And so I think, yeah.
Well said.
We're big fans of writing and reading here at Fortune. Claire, I have a lightning round question for you. So if you think about your career, all the technologies you have available to you, and the distribution landscape that has changed so much, what's one thing you would change and why if you got to start over today?
Like in technology or just me in art?
As the artist Grimes.
The artist Grimes? I would just get over myself faster and be less scared.
Well said. A round of applause, please. Thank you two.